Hi, hope you're having a good evening. Just a quick summation of end of Friday's trading into today and how we saw the positioning in the market. Really have to look at three indexes using our liquidity sentiment indicators if you want to trade. And they're the powerful indexes that all have a say in what's happening because of their positioning. Here in the light zones, they are the lit market during the New York trading hours with a bit of pre and a bit of post trading in them. And then we have the Globex hours here, the Australasian and the European hours in the grey. We can see on Friday that we had bumped around in the Globex hours with tightening liquidity, good positioning into the day, and we've had quite a good tightening we can see through the day. And when we've got down to a low point, we've managed to get a really good upside of 120 pips. This is looking at a CFD, but we're looking at the S&P 500 through a CFD. You could do it in the futures on the CBOE. I just tend to like them. I don't know why. I think they have good liquidity and good volume to watch. We can see then in the Globex, the S&P's just traded sideways, and you might be saying, well, it looks very green here. What's pulled it back? Well, there were several comments, and there was a comment by the Singaporean government. They were going to investigate NVIDIA chip sales to China. And that upset people, and there was some discussion about tariffs being increased, maybe against China for that reason. Before later in the day, we had some comments about Venezuela and oil, which also again made the market pull back. So a big difference here is we're looking at the Nasdaq in the same period. It did have a tightening going into Friday's trade. But really, in Friday's trade, it was loose the whole way through, even though we saw good upside in the afternoon. That was being dragged up there by the index players within the Nasdaq that are also in the S&P 500. And then the Nasdaq has tried to tighten a couple of times during the day. There was good positioning into the close. The option market, although we're in a neutral market that can swing very quickly, it's definitely not a long market. We're just in a neutral market. We got this bounce on Friday, and we had some options bought in the close because it looked good. I was one of the people who bought options into the close to trade this week, especially in the cryptos. But I did get some futures as well. And then we had quite a good tightening session in Monday in the Globex in Australasia and in Europe. Before we had this great big pullback, and if we go and have a look at that, where it was being driven, we couldn't see it being driven in the S&P 500, but here in the Nasdaq, we can see that it's just started to loosen as we've come into the open, and then right at the open, 5 minutes before, we're right up into the red zone, and we can see it traveling through here in the time lag. It's not quite as obvious in the irregular liquidity. It's not quite as obvious until this steep incline in the last 5 minutes in the liquidity sentiment indicator, but we can see in the time lag that it's coming through. And it's come through, and we've got 120 pips going down here that was very tradable, and then we've had this sideways movement. This sideways movement was when the VIX was moving, and if we had watched the VIX moving, we would have seen the VIX build all day. It's been down in the green zone building all day after this sideways takeover. This is only about a 2% first move, and then back down 1% and then up a little bit. But if we look at what's happened in the time lag, it's just building a position till finally it's broken. And at no stage did it look like it was going to go north. We could have seen in the Nasdaq that this was building big time. We could see that we've had a long period here. We've had a bit of sideways movement, and then it slowly started to loosen up. But again, it started to loosen up at a rate of knots here before going hard when people have come back from lunch, and it's headed south into the close. If we put those three things together, we had a very good indicator to follow through the day's trading. It was almost tradable the whole day. There was only a couple of sideways periods that might have shaken you out, depending on your sizing. But the open and the close were very, very good. And in the middle of the day, there was another good grab if you were paying attention. I hope that helps your trading. I'll speak to you soon. Naked Delta and the Liquidity Sentiment Indicators. Thank you.